Hello, and welcome to the in-class video for Persepolis. In this game, you and your group will play as friends of an Iranian schoolgirl named Marjan Satrapi in the late 1970s and early 1980s. This game is based on Volume 1 of Marjan Satrapi's Persepolis, The Story of a Childhood. It's an excellent graphic novel. It's also been made into a movie, so I would encourage you, if you enjoyed this game and would like to learn more, to have a look at it. We will begin, before we play the game, to give a brief historical background on Iran in the 1970s and early 1980s. In the early 1970s, Iran was ruled by someone called the Shah, which is kind of like an emperor or a monarch. And he had a lot of power, and he was dedicated to modernization. He wanted to make Iran a wealthy, powerful, modern country similar to Europe. As part of this, he was a big supporter of women's rights. And you can see there on the right is a picture of Iranian women who are training to be nuclear physicists. So he believed very strongly in women's rights, in women's education. You'll notice that none of those women are wearing a hijab, a head covering. At the same time, though, he also consistently violated human rights. If you were an opponent of his regime, you could find yourself arrested, interrogated, tortured, and even killed. So the Shah was a very complex person, right? On one side, he supported modernization and women's rights. On the other side, he was quite willing to use a lot of violence against people who disagreed with him. Eventually, this led to a revolution in 1979 in which he was overthrown and forced to flee the country. Now, Iranians agreed, for the most part. The vast majority of Iranians did not like the Shah. They wanted him to be gone. However, they did not agree over what form the government should take. What should the new Iran be? Some people liked modernization. Some people wanted Iran to look more like the West. Others were concerned about Western influence and thought it was decadent and wanted Iran to look to its Islamic past and become an Islamic republic. And it would be the Islamic revolutionaries who would win. And you can see there a picture of Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic revolutionaries. And you'll notice that all these ladies who are his supporters are all wearing hijabs, right, the head covering. To show the kind of division we have, in 1979, a law was made that required that women wear the hijab. And here is a large number of people, the vast majority are women, who are protesting that law. And you will see that the vast majority of them are not wearing the hijab. So the key thing we can take away from this is that Iran is a divided country. Right, you are going to have the victory of the Islamic revolutionaries. They do have real support, as can be seen by these ladies here wearing the hijab. They also have people who are opposed, who want to make a very different kind of Iran. Now, to set up this game, you'll want to arrange your students into groups, typically of 2 to 4. And each group will need 3 sets of cards, a set of victory point cards, a set of rebel cards, and a set of orthodoxy cards. And feel free to pause this video whenever you need to in order to hand out cards or to explain things. Each student needs at least 1 6-sided dice. And it's good to have something for students to roll those dice in. And a success board might be helpful if you have one. For our first event, right, remember, you're all playing friends of Marjan Satrapi. As we mentioned earlier, the veil was mandated in 1979 for people who were outside, for women who were outside. And then, as it notes here, in 1980, girls were required to wear the hijab even when they were in an all-girls school. And if you look down below, you can see that the girls, some wore the hijab seriously, others made games out of it. Your instructor may want to pause the video and have a chance to read this. But in any case, the veil is mandated. So now your group needs to make a decision. Which style do you encourage your friend Marjane to wear, right? She has to wear the hijab, but she could dress more like the fundamentalist woman on the left or the modern woman on the right. And you'll notice that also men had to make changes as well. They could wear a beard with their shirt out, or they could shave it with their shirt tucked in. So with the groups, please make that decision and then restart the video when each group has made their decision about whether they will encourage their friend Marjane to wear more fundamentalist style or more modern style. If your group suggested fundamentalists, give yourself one orthodoxy counter or card. If you suggested modern, gain one rebel counter. One thing that's important as you read, if you do read Persepolis, and I would encourage you to do so, is Marjane wrestles with her identity as an Iranian, a Muslim, and someone who admires modernity, someone who thinks Iran should be modern. And you can see that in this image that she drew, which shows her on one side wearing the hijab with Islamic calligraphy behind her. As an artist, she really enjoyed that kind of calligraphy. Islamic calligraphy is quite beautiful. And then on the left, you can see the modern idea with the gears representing science behind her. So now we'll have a question. If you get the question right, give yourself a victory point. And each group can answer this question together as a group. You're not in competition with each other, so each group can get a victory point. It's not who gets it first, it's just which groups get it right. Each of those get a victory counter. So which of the following is not an Islamic empire? The Ottoman, the Byzantine, the Safavid, or the Mughal? And again, instructors might wish to pause the video before I give the answer. And the correct answer is Byzantine. It was a Orthodox Christian or Eastern Christian empire. Marjane wants to sneak out of school and cut class with her friends. Do you decide whether to help her or not, right? So she actually wants your help. You can see there in the upper left panel, she wants your help to get over the wall of her school so she can escape and go out to a restaurant called Kansas, which serves burgers. So you need to decide with your group, do you help her or not? All right. If you don't help her, give yourself one orthodoxy counter. If you do help her, you need to roll a test. So we'll go through this slowly so you can see how this works. And your instructor, again, may wish to pause the video. Everyone rolls one dice. So if you have a group of 3 people, each person rolls one dice. A 1, 2, or 3 is a failure. A 4, 5, or 6 is a success. So please go ahead and have each person roll their dice and count up how many failures and how many successes you have. Right? Remember, a 1, 2, or 3 on the dice is a failure. A 4, 5, or 6 is a success. All right, now that you have your total, if you have more successes than failures, you succeed, right? You successfully helped her escape school. If you have more failures than successes, you fail. You're not able to help her escape school. If the numbers are the same, right? If you have the same number of failures and successes, roll again until you either succeed or fail. All right, if you failed, gain 1 rebel counter. If you succeeded, gain 2 rebel counters and a hamburger card. Your instructor should have the hamburger card, so you would want to let your instructor know if you succeeded, and they will give you your hamburger card. Now, Iran and Iraq had a long rivalry, and the Iraqi government under Saddam Hussein decided that since Iran was having a revolution, it would be a good time to invade, right? If Iran is divided, if there's fighting and protests in Iran, Iran might be weakened, and Iraq could invade and take some territory that it claimed. And this will result not simply in fighting in military casualties. The Iraqis will also fire missiles into Iran. And this will actually lead to the loss of one of Marjane Satrapi's friends. As you can see here, there's a building that's been destroyed where her friend lived. Marjane's mother said, she's probably okay. She probably wasn't in there. And then Marjane sees her friend's bracelet and realize that she wouldn't be anywhere without it. So that is an indication that she was killed. So this did cause civilian casualties. I do also want to note, please have a look at Marjane's feet. You'll see that she is wearing Nike shoes, right? So she, like I said, she's really into the West and Western products. So we have another question. Remember, if you get this right, gain a victory point. Which statement best describes the problem faced by the Safavid Empire and how it sought to solve that problem? A, the Safavid rulers were ethnic Turks ruling Persians and therefore sought to unite their empires by forcing everyone to convert to Shia Islam. The Safavid rulers were a Muslim religious minority ruling a Jewish majority and therefore ruled with religious tolerance in order to avoid rebellion. The Safavid rulers were a Sunni minority ruling a Shia majority and therefore claimed to be descendants of Muhammad. Or D, the Safavid rulers were Christians ruling a Muslim majority and therefore publicly accepted Islam while privately worshipping as Christians. And the correct answer is A. If you got that correct, give yourself a victory point. Your class is knitting for the soldiers. There's a war going on. You feel that you should help out. Your teacher certainly feels that you should help out by making hoods for the soldiers to wear so that they can stay warm. However, Marjane starts to goof off. And you, I do love this image, right? Because the girls are already wearing hijabs and they're putting hoods over their hijabs. I think it's quite funny. But you need to decide with your group. Do you tell Marjane to stop? Say, hey, look, we're supposed to be working. We're supposed to be doing something with the soldiers. Or do you goof off as well because it's fun? So make your choice. All right. So the results are, if you tell her to stop, gain 1 orthodoxy counter. If you join her and goof off, roll a test, right? You should remember how to roll a test. Everyone rolls 1 dice. 1, 2s, and 3s are failures. 4, 5s, and 6s are successes. Count your successes. If you have more successes than failures, you succeed. More failures than successes, you fail. Ties, roll again. If you failed, gain 1 rebel counter. If you succeeded, gain 2 rebel counters and a joker card. Alrighty, our next question. What was Isfahan? Was it A, the capital of Byzantium, B, the capital of the Ottoman Empire, C, the capital of the Mughal Empire, or D, the capital of the Safavid Empire? And the correct answer was D, the capital of the Safavid Empire. So you are in class, and your teacher claims there are no political prisoners in the Islamic Republic. Marjane disagrees. I think she, if you want to pause it so you can read the comic, you can. I think she might have exaggerated the number of political prisoners, but I also could be wrong. You know Marjane is right because you have family members who are political prisoners. What do? Do you support Marjane? Or do you agree with her teacher that there are no political prisoners? Do you support Marjane or do you oppose her? If you say nothing or decide to support the teacher or oppose Marjane, you gain 1 orthodoxy counter. But if you support Marjane, roll a test. If you failed, gain 1 rebel counter. If you succeeded, gain 2 rebel counters and a political consciousness card. Your instructor should have the political consciousness card and can give it to you. Which of the following statements about the Caliph is false? A, the Caliph is the successor of Muhammad. B, Sunni Muslims believe the Caliph should be chosen by the community. C, Shia Muslims believe the Caliph must be a descendant of Muhammad. Or D, though they disagree about who should be Caliph, it was not been a major issue of significance among Muslims. And the correct answer is D. So, as described by Marjane, the Iraqi army is making advances into Iran. The Iraqi military was better equipped and more modern than the Iranian military, but the Iranians had a lot more people. And you can see Marjane reading the newspaper, and she is reading about the what are called war martyrs. So martyr is a Greek term meaning witness. It was used initially to describe Christians who witnessed to their faith in Jesus by dying for their religion. This is because the Romans would persecute them. And if they kept their faith and they witnessed to their faith in Jesus, they would be killed. So they were called martyrs. This term is how we use in English then to describe Muslims who die for their faith. In this case, they're dying in war. And you'll notice if you listen to newspaper coverage about Iran, the Iranians often refer to those who die for the country as martyrs. So she is noting that a large number of Iranians are dying in the war. That's the one advantage they have, is they have more people than the Iraqis. And some of these people could be quite young. Some would be in their teens, for example, lower teens, and might be asked to go and fight for the country. And Marjane, this is an experience she talks about, where one of her cousins was given a key at school and told that if they volunteered to fight and they died, the key would allow them into heaven. And so you can see here the mother is quite upset, and Marjane is looking for a way to get out of this very, very uncomfortable situation. So Marjane's cousin has been given a golden key and is being encouraged to volunteer for the military despite being young. Marjane is trying to convince him that it is not a good idea and that he should not volunteer. Marjane is trying to convince him that it is not a good idea and that he should not volunteer. So you can decide, are you going to tell her to stop, that her cousin should volunteer for the sake of the country and the revolution? Or are you going to support Marjane and tell her cousin that, yeah, you really shouldn't volunteer for this, you're still young, you don't need to do this. So make your choice. If you tell her to stop and that her cousin should volunteer for the sake of the country and or revolution, gain 1 orthodoxy counter. If you help her to convince her cousin not to volunteer, roll a test. If you failed, gain 1 rebel counter. If you succeeded, gain 2 rebel counters and a golden key card. And I do want to note the art again. You can see Marjane is drawing a kind of parallel that shows the division within Iranian society. You have the martyrs being blown up there, the young men who, or young boys who are going off to fight and being killed, and they're being, thrown up in the air in explosion. And then below is Marjane dancing, also kind of going up, flying into the air, but in this case, dancing and having a good time. And so this shows us again the complex nature of Iranian society during this time period. On one side, you could have people dying, young people dying as martyrs in a war. At the same time, the others are dancing. Which of the following statements about the Mughals is false? The majority of the population they ruled was made up of Hindus. The Mughals were constantly at war with the Ottomans, since the Ottomans were Sunni and the Mughals were Shia. The Mughals profited from international trade, but because people came to them, they never felt the need to explore or develop a strong navy. Or the Mughals were willing to borrow and utilize technology like cannons and guns, but did not accept the ideas behind them. And the correct answer is B. Right? The correct answer was B. Alrighty, so one thing that's interesting about Iran, remember you have a government that is a Islamic fundamentalist revolutionary government in charge that does not like Western decadence and Western products, but then you have a population that's divided where some would like them. So you develop things called black markets where goods are traded illegally. And so here you could walk through the street at the black market. I think it's interesting. It was on Gandhi Avenue, and you can see people selling tapes, right? They have cassette tapes that they could sell. I do notice, I do think it's funny that the one guy is trying to sell a Jekyll Maxon, it should be Michael Jackson tape. And then you've got a Stevie Wonder instead of Stevie Wonder. And one thing that I found interesting was you can see the man on the right is selling a lot of different things, including a chess set, because that, at least at that time, was deemed decadent and bad, which is, for me, is very sad. I like chess. But you can see there, Marjane Satrapi in her Nike shoes has gone to the black market to try and buy tapes. She buys 2 tapes, Kim Wilde and Camel. And there you can see she's bought the tapes. But oh, bad luck. She has been stopped by the Guardians of the Revolution. And so she is now in trouble, right? And you are walking past the street where illegal goods are being sold, and you see that Marjane is being questioned by the Guardians of the Revolution for wearing punk clothes. She has a jean jacket on. She has Nike shoes. And she will tell the Guardians of the Revolution that she's wearing the shoes and these clothes because she's on the basketball team, and that her mother died, and she has a stepmother who will treat her very badly and beat her if she gets into trouble. And you can either say, well, Marjane is lying, her mom is still alive, and so forth. Or you can say, no, this is all true. Please do be nice to poor Marjane and spare her. So with your group, make a decision. Do you support Marjane in her lie, or do you tell the group that she is in fact lying? Alrighty, if you say she is lying, gain 1 orthodoxy counter. If you say she's telling the truth, roll a test. We got to see how believable you are as a liar. If you failed, gain a rebel counter. If you succeeded, gain 2 rebel counters and a mixtape card. So the mixtape card doesn't actually do anything. It's just fun, and it's a throwback. If you were, I was born in 1978. This is an event happened in the late 70s. We used a lot of cassette tapes. And now if you were friends with someone, you would maybe make them a playlist that you would share. But this time period, we would make a tape for them because it's really easy to make copies of these tapes. And that's what we would do. So now we need to decide what happened to you, right? What will be your fate? So you've been getting all these different cards, and it's now time to count those cards. So the first thing, for every orthodoxy card you have, get rid of 1 rebel counter, right? So if you have 1 orthodoxy card and 3 rebel cards, discard 1 rebel card. Then count your remaining rebel counters and victory points. If you have 0 or less rebel counters and less than 4 victory points, you live a safe life as a supporter of the regime. If you have 0 or less rebel counters and 4 or more victory points, you enjoy wealth and power as a supporter of the regime. If you have 1 to 2 rebel counters, you have some minor run-ins with the government, but nothing serious. If you have 3 to 5 rebel counters and no political consciousness card and less than 4 victory points, you became a rebel without a cause and spent a lot of time in prison, causing difficulties for your family. If you have 3 to 5 rebel counters and no political consciousness card and 4 or more victory points, you become a rebel without a cause who becomes a hero among disaffected Iranian youth. Basically, you become like a rock star. If you have more than 5 rebel cards and the political consciousness card and less than 4 victory points, you become a political dissident and are often in prison, causing difficulties for your family. If you have more than 5 rebel counters and the political consciousness card and 4 or more victory points, you become a political dissident and inspiration for those struggling for freedom. All right, so take a moment to determine your fate. And now it's good to have some discussion, some reflection. What was your fate at the end of the simulation? Do you think that was an appropriate result considering your actions? Why or why not? If you could have done something differently, what would it have been? Why? What did you learn about the Iranian Revolution from this simulation?